Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to LP Tremors, where we talk all things vinyl and horror. And today we have a pretty freaking awesome episode right now, and a pretty awesome, spectacular series. We are going to be reviewing every movie from this little bad boy, Friday the 13th, and what Ryan is holding right now. So, the Friday the 13th, every single movie. We're going to be doing every single movie bi-weekly. We're hoping bi-weekly at least. So since it's the first video, we're going to be starting with the first 1980 original Friday the 13th. And yes, I have the other cover right now.
Me too.
Yep, and
the other one
Ryan did
sucks.
the same thing as me. Yeah. It's so plain, the actual one, but I love this cover so much. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're gonna do. It's gonna be an ongoing series. Every Friday the 13th movie, overviews, ratings, probably rank them all at the end. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. And today in particular, we are just gonna be doing the first Friday the 13th original. So we have Ryan Gavalier from Ryan's Vinyl Destination joining me. And right below me, we have Davy Gallagher, the most beautiful man in Scotland. And from Davy's Cinema Picks and Music Picks. How are you guys doing?
Pretty wonderful. Beautiful. How are you doing?
Pretty beautiful.
Not too bad. So how this is gonna work is we're all gonna each go around, give our thoughts about this little bad boy right here. Show off some positives, negatives, what we like, dislike, maybe a little history of Friday the 13th, and maybe an overall rating at the end. Pretty open discussion for the most part. So whatever, we're just going to play everything by ear. All right. So with all that being said, Ryan, what's your history with Friday the 13th? And what do you think of the original?
Oh, boy. So Friday the 13th, dare I say, is probably my favorite movie series of all time. I know that's probably not the most cultured of choices, being there's a lot more high art out there, but you know what? I love these movies. They give me a rush. They give me a good laugh. They give me the occasional shock or fear, whatever. I don't know. Not really that scary, except for part 2, which has some scary moments. But yeah, I mean, it's just a classic series. It's sleazy. It's trashy. It's got cheesy acting. All these silly teenagers. All these crazy kills by Jason or Mrs. Voorhees or, Roy or all these different killers and just over the top stuff. It's definitely my favorite horror series of all time, and it's probably my favorite movie series of all time. There you go. I'd say that the first movie is probably one of the ones I've watched the most, just because it tends to be the beginning of a Friday the 13th watch through. I always like to start with this one. Even though I will say right off the bat, it's not my favorite of the series. There's a few I like more. But this week, I watched it again like another 4 times. I've probably seen it about 70 times at this point. Yeah. But I will say I looked at it with a bit more of a critical eye, and it's honestly a pretty solid movie. I mean, I have my pros and cons of it. Close to equalists, I would say. I have a bit more in the pros side than I do in the cons. Cool. So first of all, movie has a great opening scene. It has a cool atmosphere as they're all singing Tom Dooley and all that stuff. Just really cool there. You kind of see like a good naivety with the kids. They're just, focused on having a good time. Some of them focus on having a good time, but
drugs and fucking, that's it.
Yeah, basically they're Randy, mate. They're Randy. But yeah, there's some cool point of view cinematography. There's good music and sound effects, that classic theme song right off the bat with the right off the bat. And so then you have those kills at the beginning, which ends with a great freeze frame taking you into the opening credits, and it's just like right off the bat, this is awesome. Yeah. I'd said that in this one, the characters are mostly pretty likable in this movie. I'd say they kind of focused on making them a bit more grounded in reality than some of the sequels, although I do think 2 has even better characters, but this and 4, but still this one pretty solid characters. The acting is hit or miss. Some of these people are like porn level actors. Other ones are like kind of competent what they do. I wouldn't say anybody's really a standout actor or actress in the movie, though. That's not what this is. It's an exploitation movie. I said that the only character that I really felt was not very likable was Steve, the guy who kind of runs the camp.
Yeah.
And I think it really shows with how little screen time he gets, because he's an absolute stiff. Like, oh my gosh, I want to fall asleep every time he's on screen. But I said that Alice is a really good final girl. Not the best in this series, but she's good. She's very likable character. She has good intuition at times. Like, she has some moments in the movie where she's smarter than some other horror movie characters. But we'll get to that more later. I said there's a good mix of intense horror and fun and humorous scenes. Like, you know, you have all the kills and all the tense stuff, but then you have the scene with the snake. You have the scene where that cop comes to the camp and you got Ned dressed up like a Native American dancing around and stuff. That's a funny scene. You have like Strip Monopoly, which is pretty sleazy. All these cool little bonding moments for the characters, which add a good fun element to the movie on top of the horror. I said it is pretty sleazy, which is cool. I mean, there's a lot of sex, there's a grindhouse feel to the movie, there's Strip Monopoly, all kinds of stuff, all the brutal violence, etc. But I said it still feels pretty grounded in reality, which is cool. I mean, nothing in this movie, except for a couple things I'll talk about in the cons, I say nothing really feels like it couldn't have happened in the movie, which is what's good about this one and then the second one especially. I said the kills have a good build up. A lot of them have the theme music. Sometimes there's a painful silence too, like when the one girl's in the bathroom before she gets an axe to the head. There's some good silence there, or her just doing kind of weird like theatrics with her voice. Not the moment I knew I'd always be ugly, like all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Classic stuff. Quirky townspeople. You've got like Ralph, you've got the people in the store, you've got the cops who are kind of goofy. I really like that one cop that comes to the camp. So we don't have any room for weirdness in this town.
No crazy.
You know, oh, we got crazy people. Yeah, it's good stuff. Let's see, good setting overall with the camp. I like some of the dark scenes a lot. They feel real claustrophobic and creepy. I said that the final act is really good for the most part. I like that Pamela and Alice fight at the end. I think that's one thing that's really cool, because obviously Pamela Voorhees is not a gargantuan like Jason. She's not as strong as Jason is. She's smaller, she's older. I mean, she's basically an elderly lady. So to see them kind of being almost like an even match and just kind of fighting, pushing each other, kind of like choking each other, slapping each other and stuff, it's kind of cool because it feels very much in reality. And actually, one thing that I will say about that is that when you have scenes like right before that all, when a dead body gets thrown through the window by Pamela, I don't buy that happening at all. She's a little old lady. Like, she's not going to throw a 6 foot tall woman through a window. It's just not going to happen. So it's cool to see the fighting and stuff. And like I said, a great ending to leave some ambiguity. Was that last scene a dream? Was it not? Like, that's pretty cool. Some cons that I have, some bad effects, especially Kevin Bacon's kill.
Oh yeah.
His neck
Yeah.
grows like 2 sizes bigger.
He's
Looks
a
like an
giraffe.
ostrich getting
Yeah.
stabbed through. But that, it's 1980. It's on like a porn level budget, so I'll give it a pass there. Steve, I said, is pretty bland. Acting is a hit or miss. Some of the scenes tend to drag on too long. Like that scene where Steve and that one cop are in the car together. It's like, oh my God, when
Oh
is
yeah.
this gonna
Yeah.
end? It's so boring. Even the diner scene is kind of boring, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
There's a few scenes like that that probably could have used a little trim. Maybe didn't even need to be in the movie at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Then my last con that I have is that Pamela feels out of left field.
Really.
We have no justification that she's going to be the killer. It just happens like all within a matter of like 2 minutes. It's, oh, I'm going to help you. Now I'm freaking the fuck out and I'm going to kill you. Like,
Yeah.
it's all real sudden. It kind of takes away from that grounded reality. What I said would have been cool, because she's still, Betsy Palmer gave a really good performance, I would say, for the most part.
I'd say so. Yeah.
But I think another thing that makes it kind of weird is the flashbacks with Jason in the water are really bad. It's super, super cheesy. But I said that she should have been at the diner, or she should have been at the restaurant or something. If she was at that restaurant at the beginning of the movie where Annie's trying to get a ride, if she would have been there and you see her at least just observing or something, and then people start getting axed up at the camp, that would have added a little bit more justification there. But we don't get that. So she just feels like a came from nowhere kind of killer. So I do have a bit of an issue with that. I mean, later, part 2, Jason. Yeah, it's weird that Jason's back now and he's grown as an adult now, but at least we have a little bit of a motive there. And we have the motive with Jason's mom, but it just doesn't get developed enough.
Right.
But overall, I think this is a pretty solid movie. It's a lot of fun, sleazy, gory, funny at times. It's kind of scary at times, I guess. Did you want to give ratings now or wait till the end?
Yeah, you can give your rating. Yeah.
If I'm going to rate this movie right now, I'd probably say it's a 7 out of 10. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy the hell out of it, because I do. None of these movies are high art, but they're a lot of fun and they won't disappoint. So yeah, 7 out of 10 for me. It's an excellent movie. Not my favorite of the series. A couple more will get higher ratings than this one, but love it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. I can't really argue with that. Nice. Thank you. Davey, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Thank you. So you two came out all guns blazing there with your lovely, beautiful Scream Factory box sets, whereas my box sets.
It's all good.
It's great movies,
It looks
though.
pretty. It's Friday the 13th. It's still pretty.
Yeah. So my history with it, in the video shop, we used to have just whatever the hell you could get your hands on was the philosophy when it came to horror, and you didn't really care what the numbering was. And they kind of knew that when they were making these films back in the day, where they didn't put too much continuity in most of them, so you could just pick one up and enjoy it, and you didn't have to really care too much about what had happened previous. And this kind of sets that up. It's the kind of first of that, where even if there is continuity, it's not going to be too major. They can always rewrite whatever they want. There's a lot in here. Ryan was mentioning some filler. There's a lot in here that is very much, we don't have money to do anything, so let's just have them cavorting. Let's just have them sitting around. Let's just have them pulling down a tree stump. Let's just, that kind of stuff. But I think that they find a way to do it in as fun a way as possible. What's the name of the dickhead character again? The one that looks like Scott Bale.
Ned.
Yeah. Right. He kind of invents that character, doesn't he? I can't think of an earlier example of, and every horror franchise has one, the comedy annoying character, you're kind of like, oh, please, can you be bumped
yeah,
off?
let him die.
You know, Matthew Lillard in Scream's one of the best examples of
Yes,
that.
yeah, he is.
And you don't really have that in, say, Halloween. You know, so I think he's really the first example of the kind of comedy character that is intentionally written for you to just go die, 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 hurry up and die.
Right.
So and that's that very much a trope.
I like Ned.
I didn't mind him. I had fun with him.
hate him so much. I hate him so much. But I'm glad he didn't get busted by the cop, because he would have been safe, wouldn't it? And he would have been the final boy sitting in the jail cell.
Yeah.
But that cop for me is one of the most fun parts of the movie, because like quite a lot of this cast, Sean was casting either pretty much porn actors, theatre actors, or whoever was cheapest at the auditions and didn't want too much money. And some of them are acting like they're in completely different movies. And that cop is definitely one of them when he shows up. I love his dialogue, but he honestly feels like he's come from Twin Peaks to cross over to another show. He feels like he's just got this bizarre way of talking, bizarre delivery, bizarre tone to him, the way he's interacting with them. You know, normally in this kind of movie, you would expect the guy who was the trucker earlier on to be the cop. You'd expect that kind of, you know, big belly, like, what you talking about, boy? You know, you that kind of hick type. But here we just get this weird looking character who, you know, just wants to vaguely annoy some teens and not really set down any rules, but just show up and, you know. Your least favorite character in the movie, Ryan? I think Steve is one of the most annoyingly pointless characters in any of these movies. I don't think he's particularly badly written. It's just that he's written so blandly that there's nothing for the actor to do. I don't think the actor could do much anyway. But things like the diner scene, what is the diner scene? I mean, it's like he's flirting with the old woman behind the counter for a minute, and you're like, "What's this in service of? What is she a suspect now? What is she one of the? Is she going to be the killer? No. Why wasn't Pamela the waitress or something?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know,
that was a missed opportunity.
And then that would have set up, because she knew that Steve's family, and Steve recognizes her when, you know, it's Steve's turn. But I'm glad that I watched the documentary and the commentary, because it goes into a lot of why these things happened, and they couldn't get Betsy Palmer for more than they had. They had enough to pay her $1,000 a day for 10 days, and they literally got every minute they could out of that. It took 10 days of filming for her scenes, and they couldn't get her for one more day, or they had no more money. So to me, if that's the case, then you don't cast Betsy Palmer, unfortunately, as much as I like her in the movie, because the character is just so out of left field. It breaks your number one rule of whodunits. And the film does ask you to do a whodunit. It does ask you to play the who do you think the killer is game, where it starts with the, is it going to be Crazy Ralph? Obviously not, because he's too over the top crazy. And he's from a different movie as well. I think he's the crazy cousin of the tall man from Phantasm or something. I mean, he's just absolutely bizarre, Ralphie boy. Right. I love when he just turns up at the house, tells them they're going to die, and then walks out again, goes on his bicycle, and just, well, that's the last we see of him in this movie, you know.
Yeah,
bizarre character to bring back, but he's going to come back. I really like the ensemble. They feel like real kids, even though some of them aren't terribly young. It does have that thing of, you know, 16 going on 30, but most of them act naive, stupid, horny, the way that teenagers really should act. I never understand that as a criticism in slasher movies, where all these kids are annoying. It's like, what were you like as a teenager? Because I'm pretty sure I was quite annoying when we, you know, a bunch of us got together at parties. I'm pretty sure we were all just annoying, horny pricks, just nasty little bastards in most cases. And yeah, so I can exactly see it. And I also like that when we jump back to it's 1962, isn't it? The start of the film. Is it 1962 or 58? 58. I knew it was one of the two. I knew it was a midterm presidential year for some reason. That stuck in my mind. Why do I remember that? Yeah. 1958. I like that they're more naive because it's in the, what would that be, the Eisenhower era. So the kids are more wholesome. As you said, instead of playing strip poker, they're sitting around singing "Lay Down Your Head, Tom Dooley." You know, so it's almost like that's their version of you know, back then you had to be more wholesome even when you were together as horny teens. But you could still sneak off for a quickie upstairs if you know. Although I do love somebody might see us, nobody will see us, and then he turns the light on.
Wait, we weren't doing anything. No.
Nobody will see us, but I'll turn the light on anyway, just so they definitely can't see us. It's like a movie's getting filmed here or something. Yeah, I mean, it does break the rule of the whodunit. You're invited to say it's going to be Ralph. It's going to be Steve at one point. Is it going to be Is it going to be the trucker? Is it going? You know, blah blah blah. And then Mrs. Voorhees comes out of absolutely nowhere. She's not been mentioned. I liked that we did have a slight mention of the boy that drowned earlier on. That was fine. I liked that that's just tossed in the middle of instances. So there was the killing, and then there was the boy that drowned, and then there was another killing. So like we've just heard about a boy that drowned. But then we hear Mrs. Voorhees turning up, and she just goes too local, too pronto for my tastes. You needed, and I appreciate the justification and pointing at the television as if the television told me, and rather than the Blu-ray. I appreciate the justification of we only had enough with Betsy Palmer for this amount of time. That doesn't really excuse the fact that it's just too much, too fast, too soon exposition wise. She goes from 0 to 60. If you had just a couple more scenes even of, say it wasn't Betsy Palmer and you got somebody who you could afford an 11th day with, just a couple more days of being able to film her comforting and saying, like, oh no, it's okay, and then maybe discovering a few of the bodies and, you know, lead you on or again, filmed earlier in the movie, so we've got another suspect in place earlier on. Again, it wouldn't work nowadays anyway because the Voorhees name would tip you off straight away, but it's dealing with this as a one-off movie, as a whodunit, which Vic Miller, who wrote the movie, wanted it to be, but Sean Cunningham was just more interested in making an exploitation movie, as is Sean Cunningham's reputation, which is perfectly fine. But as a mystery, I don't think it works at all, because there's no mystery if you have not been given the correct clues, and you have been given no clues when a character just shows up and then reveals themselves straight away. You know, completely straight away. There's no mystery there whatsoever. The only mystery is why they thought that was a good idea. Just not even having her mentioned or something. I mean, even if she's not available, you can still have characters talk about her or something. Or next door in the Voorhees farm or something, whatever. Yeah. But Betsy, let's come to you. She was nominated for Best or Worst Actress at the Razzies for this performance, and I think that is completely nuts. Completely nuts. Now, I don't remember all the movies that were out in 1980, but I guarantee you there was worse performances than this. She's exactly what I think she needs to be. I know it's far too much, far too soon for the performance, but for what she's doing, everything that she does is perfectly fine. Anything that's over the top is a direction problem, like the flashback where she has to do the whole, you know, while we see the drown. That's crap. But that's her being told, look into the distance and imagine the past. So, you know, that's not her problem. Right. But she does the traumatized mother thing so well that, hey, I don't know what anybody would be like when they lose a child in those circumstances. And I don't know how they'd react. I mean, obviously we know that this franchise is going in a very silly direction in future. Not for a while, luckily, but in the far future, we're going to go in some very silly directions with it. Yeah. And she grounds it in terms of, no, I think you can actually justify that this woman would be, you know, she would be very, very crazy. I don't even like using the term because she's medically ill, really, but they're presenting her as crazy because it's an exploitation movie. Yeah. Another con, I think the score is brilliant at points, but at other points, you're just ripping off the Psycho theme too much for my liking. It takes the Psycho theme, the Jaws theme, and just mashes them up. And yeah, I can't hold that against it too much, but I think the original parts that Ryan mentioned that are just so subtle, I think those are much more effective. It's almost ambient noise more than score, and I think that works so much better. You know, when you just hear the, you know, that's so much creepier. The Victor Miller, the screenwriter, admitted that he went to see Halloween, and he doesn't like horror movies, but he went to see Halloween, and just literally took a notepad along and sat and wrote down beats. And his number one note was, people that have sex in these movies must die. And that isn't particularly, I mean, it does happen in Halloween, but it's not a massive part of Halloween. It's not a particularly raunchy movie or anything. So it's quite interesting that was his takeaway from it, that if he hadn't picked up on that as an idea, we might have a very different genre. You know, the whole teens that have sex have to die trope. That's, you know, been in slashers since Friday. That might be completely different if he hadn't have just, you know, picked up on that as his one watch of Halloween. He says he doesn't like horror at all, and I think that kind of shows in his writing, to be honest. I think it shows that he's seen Halloween, he's a decent writer, but he doesn't particularly know the horror genre. Unfortunately, he doesn't know the mystery genre either, which is a bit of a problem here. But I think the performances are for a bunch of untrained kids who pretty much were just drama school people. I think they do well. Again, I ride on Ned, but I think he's obviously supposed to be annoying, and he's the guy that you would hate in your group of friends, like, you know, acting unconscious and drowning and things. Like, we've all got that friend that takes jokes too far, and then you really hate them. You know, just you know, that friend. I do think we've got a good final girl. I like what's her name at the start? Emma, is that her name?
Allison.
Allison.
Wait, which one? No, Alice.
Who's Allison?
Alice. Yeah.
Allison. She was terrible in Allison. I hated her. You could hardly see her. No, Alice. I like that red herring. I like that we follow her for a little bit and she never even makes it to the plot. I think that's wonderful. And that's a very Stephen King idea, where a character, you're following them, and then they die before they even get to the plot.
Oh, Annie.
Oh, I thought you meant the final girl, Alice.
How's
yeah,
Annie?
No, that's Annie.
How's Annie?
Yeah.
So think of Misery. Remember Misery with Kathy Bates?
Oh, of course, yeah.
The whole movie, you're waiting for Richard Farnsworth character, the sheriff, to turn up, and then when he gets to the house, Kathy Bates kills him in 2 seconds. Yeah. And it's a very Stephen King kind of trope.
Yeah.
And speaking of Stephen King, the very end, well, not quite the very end, but just before the Jason in the water sequence was never in the script, and Vic Miller hates it. He didn't want it to be part of the movie. He just wrote it that decapitation and Mrs. Voorhees' body falls in the lake where she joins her son in the water day hereafter. That was the end. And it was apparently Tom Savini who said, no, what you should do is, and then he convinced Sean Cunningham that they needed what he called a carry ending. So an ending that doesn't make sense, but is just for the sake of an audience to go, whoa, you know. And if you think about it for more than half a second, it's ridiculous and nonsense, but it's popcorn fun. And again, as a one-off, we'd probably criticize that, but again, we know how the franchise is going to go bonkers and supernatural and sci-fi. Yeah. So, you know, we can kind of see that. But I think that's a really clever idea from Tom Savini to say, actually, you're selling an exploitation movie, not a drama. Just give them a carry ending, just give them a shock value ending for the sake of it. And personally, I would have even have taken out the Was It All a Dream sequence just at the very end. I would have got rid of that and just had it stay as Jason is somehow there. But again, we can Monday back quarterback the whole thing, can't we? Because we know where it's going. But I think for an inexperienced cast and crew, and by the way, I would like to say I do like Tom Savini's effects in it. mostly. I think the neck one stands out really badly because Kevin Bacon does indeed look like a giraffe. But what he's doing technically does push the boundaries of a lot of gore. You know, from a technical point of view, he's not quite figured it out. But when you think that only 2 years earlier he was doing Dawn of the Dead, where some of the makeup in that is just literally people getting blue paint painted on their face as they walk past Tom Savini, and that's it. You know, that's the makeup. So he's moved on. He's come on leaps and bounds just in 2 years, and we know he'll get better and better as the 80s go on to become one of the true greats of horror makeup. What is a horror icon himself, Tom Savini, without even being a, well, he is an actor, I suppose, but without being a star himself. I think this is a really solid start to a franchise that actually would have made a really good one-off as well. It could have been a great one-off little movie, but then what do slashers turn into if that's the case, if we don't have the Freddy franchise, because it's so seminal. The influence of this just goes absolutely everywhere. Yeah. And to be honest, it's not all the influence of this, it's the influence of the couple of sequels that come after it that kind of spread, with the mask and that kind of iconic thing, they really perfect the final girl idea and whatnot. So I think it's a solid start to a franchise that was never intended to be a franchise, didn't really need to be if you only watched the first one. But let's face it, we're all happy that it was because we've got more fun out of it. So I'll give it a 7.5. And I think there's actually probably, I don't think there's a 10 in here anyway. I don't think Sean Cunningham and Victor Ross have a 10 in them at this point in their careers. But I think there's a 9 in here, maybe, just with some tweaks.
Yeah.
Great.
Just real quick, Davey, I had a question for you. What did you think of the music at the end of the movie? Because you were talking about the music.
You know what I thought? My actual thoughts, without having spoken to you about it, Angelo Badalamenti is what I thought. I thought when the face dissolves into a river and then you hear piano, I thought that's Laura Palmer with Laura's theme. And the Laura's high school photograph dissolving into the Twin Peaks, the waterfalls and things, and then Angelo's piano coming in for Laura's theme. That's all I thought. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I like it. And I was watching a featurette, and the guy who composed it was saying that he wrote that one to specifically manipulate the audience, where all the other songs tell you that a killer is coming, but that one song makes you think everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's serene.
Then, Jason.
And again, isn't that very Twin Peaks? The idea of like, oh, everything's calm and serene. Oh my goodness, everything is now the worst it can possibly be, and the end of the world is nigh. That's a very, not that I'm saying David Lynch even remotely copied Friday the 13th, but actually that'd be fun. I'd love to see his version of a Friday movie. Now think of it.
Why not? Yeah, I would.
Imagine the Red Lodge in up at Crystal Lake.
My son died in the water.
Oh my god.
Oh, she could be the arm. So I think, and one thing, I know I've been rabbiting on a bit, but one thing, Tyler, that me and Ryan were discussing earlier, did you know about what Gene fucking Siskel did about this movie?
No, I don't think so.
So Gene Siskel wrote a review of this film, which he published the address of Betsy, and said this film is so offensive and wicked that you should write to her home address and tell her how disgusting it is and that you won't be seeing any more of her films. Her home address in the Chicago, was it the Sun-Times? I know one of them was the Sun-Times and one of them was the Tribune. But yeah, he wrote a piece, and it was approved by an editor, where he published that poor woman's home address and invited them to send hate mail to her. So, fuck you, Gene Siskel. Fuck you. You're probably not watching, with you being dead for 25 years, but if you happen to be, fuck you. And Roger Ebert, fuck you as well, because they did a special all about how disgusting this film was and that it was going to ruin a generation of children. You think, yeah, that's what you need. A couple of boomers telling you don't to watch something that'll make you really not want to watch it anymore. Two middle-aged guys going, "Don't watch this, kids. It's full of sex and violence." Oh no, I better not watch that then.
Oh no, I'm not. No.
Fucking hell. So yeah, so sorry, Roger and Gene, but actually, fuck you, Roger and Gene. So that's the end of my charming review. I fuck you to two dead guys.
Awesome, Davey. Awesome. Well, thank you for that awesome review. And yeah, fuck you, Gene Siskel.
Yeah, fuck him. Fuck him in his dead ass.
There we go. Amen. Amen. All right. So, Friday the 13th. Well, I'll start with a little bit of my history. It's not a really interesting history per se, but I do have a lot of history with Friday the 13th. So, the first slasher I ever watched and the first one I really ever got into is actually Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched the first movie and I obsessed over it, and then I just started binging the whole Nightmare on Elm Street series.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I think I started watching Halloween shortly after that, and Halloween left me lukewarm. Well, at least the later movies did, and that could be a discussion for another series. But yeah. So I always knew of the big three: Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and Friday the 13th. So once I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, I wanted to watch the rest of them. So Halloween and Friday the 13th. Watched Halloween, like I said, first couple I really liked, and then it kind of dried out towards the end for me. Friday the 13th was shortly after Halloween. And I will say this right now, I am 150% with you, Ryan. Friday the 13th is my favorite franchise of all time. I love Friday the 13th. I know that's not a popular answer, and I know a lot of the movies are just pretty bad acting, and the characters are just terrible. Let's be real. But I love this franchise. It's so much fun. I love the whole idea of Jason. Always have. So there you go. That's my little brief history of Friday the 13th. There's one movie in this franchise that we'll get into much later that I absolutely hated, but now I love. And there was a few like other lukewarm movies in this franchise, but then I turned to quite enjoy them quite a bit. So a few of them were a grower, but for the most part, I was hooked immediately, and this is still remains as my number one favorite franchise of all time. So that's my little history of the franchise. Now, what are my thoughts on the first movie, 1980? Directed and produced by Sean Cunningham, as we kind of briefly mentioned. You have Betsy Palmer. We mentioned her quite a bit already. You have Adrienne King playing Alice, the final girl. And then you have Kevin Bacon, which this was way before Footloose and way before he got huge. So I think that's a pretty cool little background for Kevin Bacon. But overall, not bad. I like this one quite a bit. I'll just go with my rating right now. I'm gonna join you guys with the 7.5. I'll probably give this a 7.5 out of 10. I'm not sure how I would rank how this would go in a ranking yet, but it's a 7.5 for me. I do have a lot of positives and I do have a few negatives like you guys did. And I guess I'll just go on with my positives for 1980 Friday the 13th. Number one, I absolutely love Betsy Palmer. I think she made this movie what it is. I can't see anybody replacing Betsy Palmer, and I don't want to see if there's a version of Betsy Palmer not playing Mrs. Voorhees, I don't want to see it, because Betsy Palmer is Pamela Voorhees. I think she has an amazing, for what we see in her, I think it's overall she kills it. It's not unrealistic from what she's doing, from her, slapping Alice. I think and I think Ryan, you touched on this a little bit. It's what you would see in reality if this was to happen. She's she's like this kind of frail older woman. Well, I wouldn't say older, but she's in her age, and she is not going to be throwing Alice out of the window. She's not going to be Hulk smashing her all over the place. So like those little slaps
against the
and
tree.
and pushing her, that's exactly what you would see in someone her age, right? So overall, I think Betsy Palmer nails it. She really hits this movie out of the park. And another positive I have to give, it's got a death curse. I love Crazy Ralph. For the short time that we see him and for the bits and pieces that we see him, I love that man to death. I always laugh my ass off when he's on screen. He is. Oh, I wish he was in more Friday the 13th. We see him a little briefly in the next movie, but I wish we saw more of Crazy Ralph.
And then he narrates one, doesn't he? He's number 4. He's the narrator, number 4, I think.
Yeah.
Quick hot take: I'd rather watch him than Loomis any day.
Me too.
Any day of the week for this call. I'm assuming he's talking about the Malcolm McDowell Loomis. I'll just take that. I'll live with that in my head.
But yeah, Crazy Ralph, he's another one that makes this movie. I don't want to if there. Same thing with Betsy Palmer. If there is a Friday the 13th without him, or if there's a version of this movie without him, I don't want to see it. I love Crazy Ralph. For short spurts that we see him, I love him to death. And another positive I'm going to give is Annie, the girl that we think is going to be the final girl.
Yeah,
I think she is probably, and Ryan, you kind of touched on this briefly. There's no actor or actress that is really Oscar worthy, right? Annie, I think, is one of the best out of this cast. Yeah. I think she right when you see her, she's very believable, extremely likable.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, I wish she was actually our final girl. And I'll get into Alice in a little bit, but I would rather have Annie as the final girl. I think she, as far as her acting, as far as she presents herself, I think she could have really nailed this out of the park.
Do you mean, Tyler, would you have switched the characters, like the actors? Is that what you mean, or do you mean you'd actually have her make it to the?
I would rather have her make it to the end.
Oh, because I like the red herring thing with her, but
I see where you're
coming from. She's a much better actress.
Yeah.
I think she's a great actor.
Yeah,
I think they probably chose Alice because she has more of Laurie Strode vibes.
Yeah,
she seems a lot like Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Sean says in the commentary that she's got a lot of Laurie Strode behind her eyes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Sean Cunningham saw the huge success of the first Halloween.
Yeah.
And let's be real, this can be named as a ripoff of the first one, of the first Halloween. I've seen so many arguments that this is a ripoff, and I can see it.
I just don't think it's a criticism because Sean says it.
Yeah.
So
right. So those are a few positives. Overall, the characters, like I said, they're not Oscar award-winning, nominees. You're not gonna be seeing them with a bunch of awards and trophies for best actor or actress. But overall, the characters are decent enough, especially for a Friday the 13th movie. They are decent enough, and this is probably the movie where the actors and actresses are some of the best. I would argue the second one is even better, and the fourth one, we'll get all into that in future videos. But the characters and actresses overall for a Friday the 13th movie is decent. It's decent enough. So I don't really have much issue with the characters. I agree with you. The character of Steve, he's very bland. and he just has no reason being there. You know, really did not bring anything to the table. You know, the diner scene is pointless. It's probably the most pointless scene in the movie. And with all that being said, I guess I'll go right into my negatives now because that kind of leads into it. I hated the relationship between Steve and Alice. It was just creepy to me. Steve was just kind of like a creepy weirdo at the camp. I just did not like. He was all like, he had like a boner for Alice, and he was like giving off these like little creepy little innuendos. I didn't like that at all.
Gosh, they weren't even innuendos, Tyler. It was like, you're a good painter, and you're very attractive too. It's like,
yeah. It was just weird, you know.
He's got the creepy porn.
He has a porn star stash. Yeah.
All I kept thinking of was, God, Weird Al had a weird career before he started doing comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The hair with the mustache.
No, you're not wrong. But yeah, the character Steve, he did not need to be there. He's just so creepy with Alice. I needed to, like, every time I see Steve, I have to go and take a shower. He's disgusting. He's creepy. I don't like him.
Honestly, I think he kind of is kind of the Loomis of this movie in some ways, because he's there to serve an initial purpose, and then they have to find more scenes for him, so they just have him doing random shit because they don't know what to do with his character.
Right. I can see that. No, I can definitely see that for sure. So another negative, and it's kind of like a mixed kind of negative for me, but the whole character of Alice. Now, she is a fine final girl. You know, she's not necessarily, she doesn't do anything that pisses me off. She doesn't have any, you know, cringy moments. But she doesn't have any breakouts either, if you were to ask me. You know, she doesn't, I think she's kind of like the run-of-the-mill final girl. You know, there's nothing really too special about her. She's not really like, she's not the spotlight. I just don't really, she's fine. Like, she doesn't, like I said, she doesn't offend me at all, but she doesn't necessarily bring much to the table. Like, she's not, like, I can name a bunch of better final girls than Alice. Let's just put it like that. Yeah. But she is fine. Like, she doesn't piss me off. I don't get annoyed whenever she's on camera. She's fine. For what she is, she's fine.
She does have one annoying thing for me, Tyler, and it's a trope that I hate in these movies, where they have enough about them to remember to throw things at the baddie, but not to twat the fuck out of them. So it's like, okay, I'll throw it from here very lamely, instead of holding it and just going, fuck.
Right.
And then when she jumps into the car, that also annoys me, and sees the corpse and goes, oh no, I'll take my chances running about the woods instead. She should have just lifted the corpse out the way and drove.
No, seriously, yeah. But you know, I guess I have one more negative that I'll point out. Special effects. I don't think this is Tom Savini's best. I think we've seen Tom Savini in much better spotlight. You know, they're fine. They're not really offensive. They're not bad, but like the Kevin Bacon kill, like you said, Ryan, that one's pretty bad. Like, his neck just extends, like, yeah, that was ugly. But overall, but there's like a few other small instances like that where it's kind of like, well, you could have done better, Tom. But and we've definitely seen him give much better performances, if you were to ask me. And so that's, I guess you can call that another mixed negative for me. But overall, this is just a fun movie. It's definitely the most realistic Friday the 13th movie. Like, for example, my dad, he really likes the first one, and he doesn't give a shit about the rest of them because he likes a more realistic movie. And this is definitely the most realistic Friday the 13th will ever be, you know, and that easily goes without saying, you know. So yeah, that's my quick overview on Friday the 13th 1980. If you're looking for a more realistic, more grounded Friday the 13th, if you're looking for a very realistic, not really giving a shit about the characters, kind of like having fun, but more in a really grounded, realistic setting, you're not going to go wrong with this one at all. I think it's just a fine 1980s slasher film. So yeah, I'm gonna give this. I'm sticking with my word to 7.5 out of 10. Still a really good movie. Not my favorite, and it's kind of weird because you look at Nightmare on Elm Street, you look at Halloween, you look at like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first movie is usually what people say is the best one, right? You know, Halloween '78, that one is known to be the best. Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, you can argue the third one, Dream Warriors, but a lot of the times, the first Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1 is known to be the best. Yeah. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw. You can even argue something like Scream, and the list goes on and on. Friday the 13th is the only one out of the big franchises that people mostly say the first one is not their favorite. You know, it's not necessarily hated on. Yeah, it's usually kind of like either in the middle or sometimes even closer to the end. So it's kind of funny. I'm kind of in the middle with Friday the 13th, 1980. Again, I'm not sure how I'm going to rank this. We'll see once we get, farther and farther into this little series. But I do like this movie a lot. It's one of the ones I do put on quite a bit. This is probably the one, and I'm with you, Ryan. I probably watched this one and the second one the most out of the whole series. So yeah, that's pretty much my movie. I don't really have much. So what else can be said? 1980, Friday the 13th. It's just a fine slasher film. Mm-hmm. There you go.
Do you know what film I think, if somebody like your dad, for example, if they only like that kind of more realistic, but maybe like this rural atmosphere and the tone, I think The Burning's a great companion piece.
Yes.
Yes. The Cropsey.
Yes.
And very young Jason Alexander with still some hair.
Yes. Yeah. The Burning. That's such a good movie. I
think it was the same year. I think it was 1980 as well.
I think that's 81.
Was it? It was about then.
I think it's 81. Yeah.
I think Arrow put out the Blu-ray of that, but
I have the DVD. I don't have the Blu-ray of that, but that's a great one.
Yeah, and that's a good one and done. So it'd be interesting if this was a one and done. Would it be just like a cult movie, like The Burning, or?
I would assume so. Yeah.
What would slashers be like without the sequels? It's a funny one to think.
I think if this was a one-off, it'd probably have about the same fame as the original Prom Night.
I can see that. Yeah.
Fall into obscurity about there. It's a better movie than Prom Night by far, but I think it'd probably fall into that area of,
or say I would kind of say like the same popularity and recognition as like Maniac,
or even Mother's Day, because you've got the whole mother aspect, with the kind of creepy older woman.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time though, it could. Well, here's the thing: if this hadn't come out, would Halloween be as popular as it is now?
That's the thing, because it was the success of this. Well, actually, the success of the sequels to this that made every studio say, "What do we have the rights to that we've not done a movie for in a while?" So that's why you get Phantasm 2 after 5 years, because they said that was a one and done, but we could turn it into a slasher franchise, couldn't we, and bring it back. And I'm glad they did, because I love Phantasm sequels. I love all the Phantasm.
Yeah.
And everybody started raiding their vaults to see what they had that they could slasherize and turn into a franchise all of a sudden. And you made that great point, Tyler, that it's funny how the iconic Jason doesn't come into it until the third film. Yeah. With the hockey mask that people assume is just, that must be Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
He's not in the first whole two movies. That's kind of nuts when you think about it.
Yeah.
You ain't getting burlap sack Jason on posters and stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's like Hot Toys models and things for collectors, but the iconic Jason is obviously the one from 3 onwards, and really 4 onwards when you think, because it's usually quite a clean mask as well.
Yeah. And actually, one more negative that just kind of popped into my head. I hate the horror cliche of things are getting quiet, and then at the end you have that final cheesy jump scare. I hate that. That really, like, if I was to name something that really grinds my gears, it's that. You know, it's like Jason just
I do hate
Alice
jump
just
scares.
floating down the river. That nice little music comes, and then Jason just pops out. I'm like, come on.
No, I like that. I
Do
I
think
you?
like it too.
yeah,
Mhm.
I hate jump scares in general because they're now overused. Like,
Yeah.
see when my friends say, "Do you want to go to the movies and see?" And then it's like The Conjuring or something or whatever the new one is. They
Yeah.
are all just full of jump scares every 2 minutes.
They
When,
are, yeah.
when you use them really well, like remember the attic in The Exorcist where it's it's deadly quiet and then it is just a mouse or something, but it terrifies Ellen Burstyn. That's a really good jump scare and it's only a
Yeah.
mouse. Jason's a good jump scare here, but you're right, it's a trope that lazy script writing started
Lazy.
to rely on more and more. Well, we can't think of a scare. We don't have the money for Tom Savini's gore or whatever, so let's just do a
Right, right.
Well, I think that if they didn't do that scene, we wouldn't have a franchise. I think
because
that
Jason would
that
be dead.
is
That's true, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what sets up the franchise because and that's actually in my original notes, I did write, what if they didn't have the "it's only a dream"? But if they didn't have the "it's only a dream" thing, then we wouldn't have the ambiguity because she says, well, he must still be out there. He must still be that
Kenny's
right
still
there
there.
sets up a franchise.
Yeah.
Whereas otherwise, we might have just had the one off.
Yeah.
I
We
see
wouldn't
that.
be here talking about this movie right
That's
now.
that's a good point. It's
Yeah,
like,
I see
so
where you're going with that.
I'd like to see the alternate reality where that happened and see what horror in general turned into, but I also don't think it would be better for our kind of tastes.
No.
You know, because slashers, yeah, to be honest, it's probably the worst genre in terms of it's been so badly done, than more times than any other kind of movie. But the peak of the genres are so high, you know, because everybody, all you need is just some not even blood most of the time. They just use, you know, whatever red thing they can find, pig's blood or whatever, and film a slasher for, you know, regional horrors for a couple of $100 and put it out, and, you know, straight to video, whatever. And yeah, I'd like to see that alternate reality, but I'm kind of glad that they did make that decision. That Jason did pop up, so and that's Tom Savini. Imagine that, the special effects guy saved the day, not even the scriptwriter. If it was up to the scriptwriter, we would not have had Jason back at all. He would have stayed dead.
Yeah.
And
it also parallels Halloween 1, the ending with Michael walking away after he gets
right,
thousands of bullets pumped into
Right.
him. Like,
I shot him 6 times.
I shot him. Right.
You don't know what evil is.
Oh my god. Yeah. So anyway, so that's our little brief review of the first Friday the 13th. I think we're all pretty in sync with each other. A lot of us were saying the same things. It's just a fine /80s slasher movie. You know, this is a great first movie to the Friday the 13th series. May not be our favorites, but it is still really good. There's really not much negatives to say about this movie. So there's nothing really negative. There's really nothing that really irks us. It's just a really fine slasher movie. And I think the general public would argue the same thing. But
it's those early albums by British invasion bands where you could hear the talent, but they were still doing like rock and roll covers, and you didn't really want that kind of stuff, but you knew there was talent there that was about to come out. That's kind of what the first Friday is for me. You know,
right.
I'm waiting on them to start writing their originals because I know it's better stuff coming down the line.
Sure. Yep. Exactly. Do you guys have any other additional thoughts on the movie? Anything else you want to point out?
We've done it, yeah.
No. All right, great.
That's why I do number 2 right now.
Yeah. All right. So,
okay.
Let me see. All right, part 2. Jenny's fucking awesome. All right, we're done here. All right. So, but with all that being said, that's our overview of Friday the 13th. Definitely let us know in the comments your thoughts on the movie, on the series in general. Anything Friday the 13th related is more than welcome. Davey, Ryan, you guys have YouTube channels. Do you guys have anything to plug? Ryan, I'll have you go first.
I'll just keep it quick. My channel's Ryan's Final Destination. I talk about film, I talk about music, little niche topics with music, little niche topics with film. Um, yeah, just come check me out, like and subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon. Thanks.
Yeah. Ryan's Vinyl Destination. Definitely check that out, and I'll have that in the comments as well. Davey, what's going on with your channel? Anything new?
I did the review of our Neil Young album last week, which very much enjoy. I enjoyed the album very much.
Yes.
Although you should all still go and watch it because it was a brilliant review. I very much.
It is a brilliant review.
But apart from that, as Ryan said, it's just a niche channel with niche movies and niche music, but it's our niche and we love it. So
yes, yes, and
we love our niches.
And Davey, I can't thank you enough for this.
Not at all. Both of you have had birthdays, so both of you had birthday presents.
Yes. Happy belated birthday, Ryan.
Thank you.
But you both had birthdays at pretty much the same time, so you cancel each other out by not sending each other something. So I like that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. But yeah, seriously, Davey, thank you. This is excellent live record.
Well, I have an absolute blast. At least I can do it to support Neil. So
yes. So but anyway, with all that being said, so you're watching LP Tremors. Not necessarily. I don't really have a whole lot to announce in the near future. Feeling the Monday Blues, that's coming on this Monday. I'm gonna have another Feeling the Monday Blues out, so that should be a lot of fun. But yeah, get ready for more. I actually just posted a video. When was it? 4 or 5 days ago, where I was looking at my favorite classic rock debuts. So I looked at my personal 10 favorite classic rock debuts of all time for me personally. That was a lot of fun. If you haven't checked that out, be sure to check that out. What else going on? Oh, later this month, going to have a new guest onto this channel, Mr. Peter Jones. So Peter Jones is going to be joining me on this channel, and we're going to be discussing the first Bad Company record. And we're going to be doing a bunch of overviews on that record, positives, negatives, open discussion about that incredible record. So be sure to check that out. Yeah. Other than that, get ready for more Friday the 13th series with these two beautiful men. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Anything you guys want to add?
Yes, you're beautiful too.
Yeah, you're beautiful. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I try. All right, guys. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Stay tuned for I'm assuming we're gonna do this. It's gonna be a bi-weekly thing. That's what's kind of looking like. So 2 Fridays from now, we're gonna be discussing the second movie. So get ready for that. And that's pretty much all we got. So that's it. Stay metal. Stay scared. Bye, guys.